Hi, how are you doing? I think we got a few people here. Hi, Daniel. How is it going for you this week? Hope you had a great Thanksgiving and have plans for a good end of the year holiday season, depending on how you enjoy it. A lot of people do it differently, they call it differently, but it's going to be here regardless. So, hope everything's well. Let's see if somebody's texting me here. Nope, just about a Marriott reservation I have coming up. Well, you never know who's going to show up here on the live session. But for those of you who are calling in and checking in and watching this in the replay, same thing, same information, nothing different. For those of you who are watching this live, or if you can't catch the whole thing, usually about 15, 20 minutes after I end, this recording is available on YouTube. And as long as you're registered, which of course you are, otherwise you wouldn't be seeing this live, then that link is automatically sent to you as well as soon as that's ready to go. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes a little longer. It just depends on what's going on in the system. So what I want to do is get started, and everybody I know has limited time. Some of you who watch me over and over, you know who I am. I've been doing this doctoral dissertation stuff, I don't know, 17 years now, it looks like. I'm not sure if next year is 18 or 17, but since 1999. So I guess it's been a while. And like the commercial says, I've seen a lot, so I know how to get people through their programs. And that's literally what I do. I help my mentees. I just had another mentee get his proposal or his dissertation approved this week. I also had three or four people also had their proposals approved in the last few days as well. Same thing happens when I'm working with people who are not my mentees, that are maybe perhaps working at going to school at other universities, or even the universities I teach at part-time, but I'm not assigned to them. They work with me and I help them out as well, whether it be on a 60-day coaching program or they pick up my different programs I have that they can do self-learning. I have a weekly program, which is for 52 weeks. And now is a perfect time to start that for next year. Matter of fact, you're going to get an email, probably a little video from me in the next couple of days. I decided for 2017, I'm going to offer people, the first 17 people who actually email me or reply to that video, the opportunity to get my $360 program, which you could pay $36 a month if you want, or all at once, for $20.17 for 12 months, and save money. So, 2017 is going to be a great year. And so I want to be able to help people as much as possible. I get it. Sometimes funds are not there and you need it to be there. And, so maybe $20.17, that's probably, less than you spend on coffee every month at Starbucks. That's like if you go to Starbucks twice in a month, that's probably less than what you pay there. But I'm going to offer that for the first 17 people who email me, and there'll be one lesson a week starting January 1st. By this time next year, you will have gone through every chapter, every heading in every chapter, and picked up not only how to get through every session, but also there's 5 different items in each week to include, my motivational, inspirational, tips and strategies, all the different bonus webinars I've done over the years. They're there as well. You get one every week. You also get a quote from me every week. You get another famous quote, and it's just all sorts of stuff that I put in there. And so anybody who's enrolled in that or has been, if you decide you want to come to my weekend event, you're also going to get a discount on that. And that's only for those people who've been enrolled in any of my other programs. So, you know what? Let's get into today's lesson. Enough of me telling you about what I got going. If you want to go there, you want to check it out, the best thing I can tell you to do is just where you see an offer on the side there, probably a monthly payment option, just click on that and they'll take you to it. And I'll just touch on it again before we get done. This lesson here, I'm moving from the general to the very specific. Kind of like you want to do in a problem statement. You move from what's going on holistically to the very specific. And so I'm going to do today chapter 1. Next lesson will be on chapter 2, then 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to give you the highlights of chapter 1 and some of the things you really need to know, really nitty gritty as well. So if you're thinking about how to write chapter 1, or you're writing chapter 1, or you already have a draft of it and you're thinking, well, you know what, I need to make it better. Perhaps I'm going to be able to give you some tips and strategies right now on how to do that. I always have my mentees write one section, one heading at a time. I have them write first the problem statement, then the purpose statement, then the research questions, and the nature of the study section, the significance of the study section, and sections that go from that point forward to complete the chapter. Now, I'm a big believer, as many of you probably know, what I talk about are incremental gains, which is small steps of progress over periods of time add up to be huge successes. Same thing happens here in chapter 1. You write 2 paragraphs, 300 words for a problem statement. You can do that, right? It may take you a few drafts. Most of my mentees probably take some 10 or 15 drafts to get it perfect. But, you write 2 paragraphs, you get a drafter, you get it going. Then, you go to the purpose statement. That's 1 paragraph. Chapter 1 tends to be an average about 22 pages long. Somewhere between 20 and 25. 25 is for those people are just a little bit longer winded, perhaps, and they don't know when to stop writing, or perhaps they're doing a mixed method study and they need more content in it, particularly in the nature of the study section. But don't worry about 20 pages at once. Let's just worry about 2 paragraphs. Let's worry about 1 paragraph. When we get done with that purpose statement, then let's write 1 or 2 questions that align with your research design. Then you know what? Write the nature of the study section. Again, 4 paragraphs. That's all you really need. You don't need 6. You don't need 8. You need more than 1 or 2, okay? 4 is ideal, and I give the prescription exactly how to write it, which all my mentees have used for years and had their work passed, as have other people. So in my lessons that I give, I actually give how many words you should have, how many paragraphs. I break it down so it's just so easy for everyone. So as you go through chapter 1 and you write this 1 section, 1 heading at a time, once you get it all put together, then you have to align it. So I'm going to talk about some high-level perspectives first. Let's just say the problem statement. In the problem statement, there's 2 views. It's that general problem, which is what's going on holistically. Let's just say there's something going on in the information technology field that you're writing about. That's where the problem is, that the problem is high turnover rates of millennials in IT throughout the country. Now, the specific problem might be, what is that specific problem as it relates to some high-tech company in your city where you're going to do your research? Specific problems should always be related. Always be related. Count this. Remember this. Always be related to where your survey population is. And the general problem should be more broader scope. Now, in the specific problem, that should relate to your survey population. So in the purpose statement, you're also going to relate the location unit analysis of your research. So you're going to have a tie-in, a connection. And if you don't have it because you didn't address the specific problem to your survey population, that connection will not be there between the specific problem and the purpose statement. Now, even in your research questions should relate to those people in the specific setting. So there's another tie into your research questions. Now, in your nature of the study section, there's no need to have any tie in there, but there are other areas such as the significance of your study section. The significance of your study should indicate when you're done, what potential value your study will hold to other people. So you should not be saying that your study will be used or that it's going to be providing something of use to people, but we talk about the potential use, the potential value. And it's from there. Then you will write 1 paragraph about how your study, when done, will have a potential value to those people who are in your survey population, who you had research questions about, and you also addressed in your specific problem. You see, this is where a lot of students don't truly understand the connections in chapter 1. And this oftentimes will cause them delays, particularly once you get an early draft and then somebody says, well, I don't see the connections. Yes, you addressed each area, but not as well as you could have. So what I'm trying to do is through these sessions that I provide here in my lessons is to help you truly understand, yes, you need to write each section, but you have to align them. And it's not as easy to figure out as you might think. That's why it takes time. You have to read through things. And a lot of people will say to me, I feel like I'm all alone. I don't really know all the expectations that are placed upon me. I get that. And it is what it is. Good, bad, or indifferent. But you know what? That's why you're here. And I'm glad you're here because I can show you, I can tell you, and my lessons, you can go through them and get them if that's what you want, and get your work approved like so many other people have on the first time and graduate on time. it's really great that I get feedback from people who have gone through my programs, spent the $365 for the lesson strategies, or they picked up all 58 lessons all at one time and watched them over and over and over throughout the year whenever they wanted to, because they get access to them forever, that they've made progress, and they use it as a checklist, if you will, like a rubric, grading their sections. They'd listen to the lesson, then they'd write their work and go back and listen to the lesson, and then kind of make their work even better. That's why I put those programs together. And just by the way, all those 58 lessons, they're also available on a monthly program too. Just click on the link, go to my website, you'll find them there. So what I want to talk about is, you move through chapter 1 is truly to understand that once you have your problem statement, and the area that precedes the problem statement, I don't have people write the background of the problem, the background of the study, some people call it, first, because that's usually one of the last sections I have students write, because that's almost like a miniature literature review. It's the salient points of chapter 2, really, in many ways, in regards to how did the problem come to be. In chapter 1, after you have the introduction section, then you have, and an introduction should be 2 paragraphs. You don't need anything more than that. You don't need more than a page and a quarter, maybe 1 page, 2 paragraphs. Give a little information about the background of the problem. I mean, what the problem is, a little bit of background in one paragraph, what it is, and then what's in your work that follows. So 2 paragraphs, 3 at the most, in the introduction section of chapter 1. Then the next section, background of the problem, I like to call it. Many people, many universities call it that, but I've also seen it called background of the study as well. What we're asking for, what we want you to provide there is 2 to 4 pages. Help somebody understand how the problem you're experiencing in your industry, where your survey population is, how did it come to be? So if there's a problem in IT holistically in the industry, how did that come to be, particularly in regards to the retention of millennials? Now, you may have to give a little introduction, about, how technology evolved, and, maybe through the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, my background was in technology and I was in the military. I was trained on I was on the hardware side, how to fix it, repair it, replace it. So I understand technology from that side more than I do the software side. But I can tell you, even in 1980, when I was being trained, of course, back then they called it the advanced electronics field. It's not so advanced today by those standards, but there was a high turnover rate of people in the military who got the training and then got out of the military. Excuse me, roughly the same age groups as the millennials are today. Of course, now we're all baby boomers, but at that time, there were companies paying a lot of money for the technology that we had been trained on. So there were a lot of people getting out of the military who were maybe making $35,000 a year, getting a job real easily at $70,000 a year. Now, take that into 1990 or 1980, 1985 value of what the dollar was as compared to what it is today, and that was a lot of money. Most people made almost double, if not triple, their salary from the military. So there's always been this turnover problem with people who have high skills, who are highly trained, highly technical in particular. So in the background of the problem, you'd give some evidence to support that, show the trends over time, maybe for the last 20, 25 years, show how it's gotten worse or how it's increasing in concern. Then perhaps maybe by one industry or several industries, it doesn't matter. But keep in mind, the background of the problem is 2 to 4 pages. References here, you can have a couple of them that are older than 5 years, because you are going to show some trending or historical information. Doesn't give you carte blanche to open the door and put all sorts of stuff in there from older than 5 years. But a couple of them, if you're using it for trending information and background information on how the problem came to be, that's fine. These same references, this same information will be also found in chapter 2, maybe not word for word, paragraph per paragraph, but I like to look at the background of the problem or the background of the study as the salient points of chapter 2 that relates to how the problem came to be. So very simply, the background of the problem tells us how the problem came to be. Your problem statement is what it is now. Keep the 2 separate and distinct. Just as in the problem statement, the first paragraph, the general problem, is the industry, the holistic perspective. Then The other perspective in the specific problem in the paragraph, which is the second one of the problem statement, tells what the problem is today, wherever that survey population is. So I hope you're starting to see some of the ideas that I have here, or the connections in chapter 1. Now, as you write your research questions, something you just have to know, and I have this problem with a lot of students, even in the research courses I teach, it is what it is, right? You have to know this, and I drive this point home in all my webinars dealing with research, is you have to determine what your research design is. Research questions are written to align with their design. So when people tell me, oh, I want to do a case study, Dr. Rich, my question always is, excuse me, things falling apart here, is what kind of case study? Is that exploratory case study? Is it explanatory case study? Is it a descriptive case study? Is it a narrative case study? What kind of case study are you doing? Because your research questions, your central research questions, need to be written in alignment with that type of case study. Case study questions are written differently than from a phenomenological study, yes, but they're also written differently in regards to a case study that's an exploratory or a descriptive case study. Words matter. If you don't know which words apply to the individual case study, then you are going to struggle, because how can we assess your research question alignment? Now, if you've done your job well and you understand this, then putting together nature of the study section, which I'm going to talk about in a minute or so, will be easy. If you have some struggles with what kind of case study, the best thing I can do is tell you, go to Google, go to your research textbooks, go back into your notes from when you had classes in research and find out what are the different case studies. Now, in my lesson plans, when I talked about qualitative research, I had 14 lessons on qualitative research. They're all bonus lessons in my 36-week program. You can get them all. I go through every individual design and research method. And in those designs, like case study, I tell exactly what each type of case study is and how to outline your questions to it. You just have to know it, and you have to learn it if you don't know it. And I had to learn it too. We all do if we're going to do research, and you're going to do research whether you like it or not if you want to graduate. But your research questions have to be worded based on the design. So if you're doing phenomenological study, you're going to be looking for lived experiences, and those are usually defined as assumptions, beliefs, or perceptions. If you could do a case study, if you do an exploratory case study, you're going to do the how and why questions. If you're going to do a descriptive case study, you're going to have questions that are going to have people describe what their situation was. Case studies are about situations. Phenomenological designs are about a phenomena. And a phenomena and a situation are a little bit different. Again, these are words you have to learn. This is the context and the vocabulary of research, which you will have to learn, and hopefully in your online classes you have become a better consumer research. If you're not a good consumer research, it's going to be really hard to do research. So research questions have to align. Now, some people say, I was working with somebody in an online class the other day, and there's like 10 central research questions for what I believe to be an exploratory case study. It's like, dude, no. We don't do that. One question, maybe 2 or 3 you need for a case study. You need one, perhaps, even in a phenomenological study. It could be what are lived experiences. And then in interview questions later, you have people give you what their assumptions, beliefs, and perceptions are. In a case study, you can have one central research question about what was the understanding of something that you want to identify, a robust understanding of whatever occurred in that situation from the people you interview. And in your interview questions, you have the very specific interview questions worded, aligned to your type of case study. That's going to give you the information to answer the central research question. If you've been with me in any of my lessons, you know I'm not a big believer in sub-central research questions. I see no need for them. There are reasons why you could have them. I wouldn't necessarily deny somebody's work because they had some questions, unless interview questions were not aligned to those sub-questions, or if there was a sub-question that had nothing to do with the interviews and was maybe more so a demographics kind of question. So keep in mind, there are different reasons, but I don't ever have any of my mentees have sub questions. I just tell them, don't go down that route. There's a few things I believe in and a few things I'm okay with for my mentees. Now, if another student had one or two sub questions and it made sense and I was on the committee or I'm just reviewing somebody's work, I would probably give my perspective. But if they wanted to have them, as long as it was logical and everything was aligned, I would be okay with that. But I'm here to tell you that you don't know yet how much more difficult it's going to be to analyze your data and report your data when you have to respond to sub questions and then central research questions. It's not as easy as you think. So this is why I tell my mentees, you know what? I want to get you through your program. I want to get you to graduate. I want you to get through this scholarly activity, this assignment, which is a dissertation. Then if you're going to do research on your own after you earn your credential and you're no longer paying tuition, then go for it. And so those are things you need to know about research questions. Now, the nature of the study section is simply 4 paragraphs. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through those 4 paragraphs because all you have to do is go to my website, have the free lesson. Did you notice I said free lesson? You can download. It's one of the 52-week lessons, and you'll see everything that's in there. You'll see the bonus lesson. You'll see the quotes. You'll see exactly what you would get. And it's about a 30, 40-minute video on just how to write the nature of the study section. Did I mention it's free? So click on that link on my website at drrichschuttler.com. It's in the upper right-hand corner. It says free download nature of the study. Click on that, watch it. You can watch it a couple of times if you want to, but it's 4 simple paragraphs. Write about the method in the first 2 and then design in the second 2. I give you the prescription for success. Did I tell you it was free? It's free. Just click on it, watch it, and you'll be fine. Now, of course, in the nature of the study section, your chosen research design, of course, has to be reflected in the purpose statement. Now, also, when you get later in your chapter 1, where you start talking about the assumptions, and you have the nature of and you have the scope, and you have limitations and delimitations, these are other areas where research gets tied in. So let's just say, for example, limitations. All research has natural limitations. It doesn't matter. If you're doing a case study and somebody else did a case study, some of those limitations are going to be exact same in your work as it is in somebody else's work. For example, one of the limitations is that, if you're doing qualitative research, you're not going to talk with everybody. The generalizability is not as strong as it is in quantitative work. You're going to be looking at the trustworthiness of your work. If you look for assumptions, you're going to assume people are going to give you the truth when you interview them. You know what? Everybody else who did a case study forever in the world also had the same assumptions. So why not just R&D it? Rip off and duplicate what somebody else wrote in their work and incorporate it in yours. Now, I'm not saying plagiarize, but you can certainly look at other people's dissertations. You can find out who they referenced, who they cited. You can go get those references yourself. And you can find out more about assumptions or limitations and then write to them in your own words. But just know that some of them are going to be the same no matter what. And that's okay. We just want to make sure you're aware of it. It's not about repeating it because everybody else did. It's about showing that you're learning the information. Now, delimitations, it's how you're delimiting, what boundaries you're putting on your study, like who you decide to interview, what research design you've chosen, an exploratory, explanatory, perhaps a case study. And you need to explain why you picked which one, right? Why did you delimit it? Why did you delimit it to an exploratory case study as compared to an explanatory case study? So here's some tie-ins again, back to the nature of the study section. Unfortunately, a lot of students don't learn these tie-ins. And as I mentioned earlier, it'll slow down your progress if you don't understand these. And so this is where students say, gee, I read the template the university gave me. It said fill in this information. It didn't say about tying it all together. Well, they can't teach you everything. They do their best. And then you got dissertation chairs and committee members to help you do the rest. But you know what? I'm a big believer in being proactive. Chance favors the prepared. So I'm glad you're here listening to this video or watching it live. Depends on how you're seeing this. If you're on YouTube and you don't even know who I am and you're watching this lesson, well, hey, how are you, man? Glad to have you here. But if you need more help, then go to my website, check out the lessons and get them already. Somebody told me a couple of weeks ago, and I get this on a regular basis, says that was the best $700 I ever spent, or the money when they come to my weekend, which is always right around $700 also, or the lessons, one lesson a week for 52 weeks. The people who start on January 1st, they're already in week 52, 53 right now. I guess they're in week 62. Some of them, I forget what lesson, they're 52 weeks, so I guess they're in 47. Somebody just was in 47. So they're right at the end of the year. They got all those lessons. They're ready to go. Their work is improved. And you know what? It's incremental gains. Get better and better and better. So with that, as you look at chapter 1, I'd like for you just to kind of look at it 2 perspectives. One is each individual section. Yes, you have to write it. You have to write it well. You have to use scholarly writing concepts, the right words. You have to write it with higher order critical thinking. You have to do it in research context and terminology, which sometimes it's hard to do because you've never done research before. At least most doctorate students haven't. So you're working on a whole new industry, if you will, because research is an industry. Research is a career field. And you're becoming a scholarly academic researcher, so you have to use the terminology correctly. So as you're writing chapter 1, you've got a lot of things to be concerned with. Yes, you have to write each individual heading well. You have to get it focused. Don't get carried away. If I'm giving you the idea, or you read in your university guidance that says for the problem statement, you need 2 paragraphs, roughly 300 words, or an average, no more than 300 words. Well, you know what? Don't put 3 paragraphs in 600 words. It's not going to go well for you. And some people say, well, I need more information in there. No, you want to put more in there. It's not what's needed. Believe me, I've seen thousands of dissertations, and so have other faculty. And if you go into ProQuest, if you look at them all, particularly from your university, don't go look at dissertations that were published 15 years ago from some other university. Look at the ones that are published from your university recently and find out what's the average if you're not sure. I've seen some dissertations that are 97 or 100 pages long. I've seen others that are 150 pages long. You put in all the appendices, you put in, references and all the other information. It's not uncommon, particularly if you're going to put transcripts in there, that you're going to have a 500-600 page dissertation. You do not have to put the transcripts in there, but I see students do it. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It depends on what you want, but take a look and see what's there on an average. Give people what they want. Your chair, your committee members, the university. If the university says 300 words for the problem statement, give them 300 words as close as you can. Get within 10% of it. If you got 280 words, you're fine. You got 320 words, you're fine. If you got 3 paragraphs, you're probably not so fine. Always keep in mind when you're writing, it's 3 to 7 sentences per paragraph. Don't go throwing in a paragraph that's 12 sentences long. It's coming back to you. It's not going to get approved, all right? If you don't write well, get some help. Ask for somebody to read your work. Pay for somebody to read your work. Barter for somebody to read your work. You can do some marketing for me in my program. I'll read your work. It won't cost you a penny, right? You help me to get a better exposure on the internet or wherever else. I'll do favors. I mean, that's what bartering is about. So there's a lot of different ways to get your work better. So I really don't want to drag this on any more than just tell you as you get through chapter 1, the areas of major concerns and why students don't get approved. It's not written well, it's not articulated well, or each section is not complete in of itself, and the alignment is not always there between each section that needs to be aligned with other sections or headings, depending on what you want to call them, within the chapter itself. Now, chapter 1 certainly is what we call the introduction chapter. So what's there is going to be expanded upon more, like I mentioned, in the background of the problem, which is going to be how many pages? 2 to 4 pages, right after the introduction, right before the problem statement. That section is, as I mentioned before, kind of like the salient points that we find in chapter 2. So there's going to be some tie-ins to chapter 2. Also, the thing I didn't mention yet about chapter 1 is the section called Theoretical Conceptual Framework. You have to decide what it is. I can tell you that most doctorate students, I have asked this question to third-year doctorate students. Tell me the difference between a conceptual framework and a theoretical framework. I'm lucky if 50% of the people know the actual answer without guessing at it, and guessing rather wrong at it too. So you got to know that. That's part of the vernacular of the degree and the education you're seeking. So you have to know what the theoretical and conceptual framework is, because you're going to have to write them in chapter 1 in that section. And it may be you have to apply more than one. Very rarely can a student apply less one or by itself, because most of you're in a PhD program or a practitioner-based program, perhaps a DBA, or you're working on a doctorate of healthcare or a doctorate of education or doctorate of management. Then you have to address what is perhaps the theory behind leadership, and then what it is to your industry. In PhD programs, we look at what's the gap in the literature. So somebody may be in a leadership program, so they have to write about the theoretical framework of leadership. But if they're applying it in nursing, they also have to address a conceptual or theoretical framework in that industry as well. But that's also expanded upon in chapter 2. Now, chapter 1 being the introduction chapter also is what we call the abbreviated pieces of research that are going to be found in chapter 3, which is your research methodology chapter, or research method, depends on what your university likes to call it. But the reality is that chapter requires what I call excruciating details. I mean, details. The details need to be so extreme that when your proposal is approved, if for some reason you couldn't collect the data to complete your dissertation, that somebody else would be able to pick it up, read your proposal, know pretty much exactly what you were going to do, why you were going to do each step, and how to do each step. And that way you get so much detail in there that most students, of course, in chapter 3 find problems because their work doesn't get approved because they don't provide that excruciating detail. So with that, as I get through the next couple lessons, I'll go into the overview of chapter 2, how to create a killer chapter 2. Also then how to write that excruciating detailed chapter 3. Now, in my lesson strategy, again, I detail this out word for word, heading for heading, section for section, chapter for chapter. I give you evidence. I give examples from my mentees. If you go and download that free lesson on the nature of the study section, which is how many paragraphs? 4. You'll see I use examples from my own mentees I worked with. I know their work well. I know their work got approved on the first time. They gave me consent, permission to use their work to help you out. So you know what? There's a lot of information out there. I got a lot of information available. If you haven't been or you're not enrolled into my group in Facebook, I've got a group. It's called Taking the B Out of ABD. That stands for taking the butt out of all but dissertation. This way we can get all dissertation. Everybody gets completed. Just look for the group in Facebook. When you log in, go to the left-hand side. If you're doing it on computer, if you're doing it on app, you'll see a group location. Then just type in there, Taking the B Out of ABD. It'll take you right to it. It's the only one called that. Ask to join it. I'll approve it. And next thing you know, you'll see all the information in there. If you haven't downloaded my new free ebook, I see over 100 people download it in the last couple of weeks. Download the free ebook. Did I mention it's free? It's strategies and tips on how to complete a doctoral program. There's stuff in there that's going to help you with your mindset, with your writing of your work, and just giving you some insights from Dr. Rich's experience. The price is free. What have you got to lose, as the President-elect Donald Trump had to say. So with that, I'll leave. I see Daniel, you're here, and thank you very much. You have a great holiday. I'm actually leaving tomorrow. I've got a flight early in the morning. I'm on my way to Bangkok for a week. So it's always good to have great clients and go to a place where it's nice and warm and someplace I've never seen before. So I'm looking forward to having a safe trip over there, a long trip tomorrow, and then I fly back on later next week. So before I close out here, Daniel, I know the majority of people are going to catch this on the replay. For those of you on the replay, you can always email me, right? If you're in that Facebook group, type questions in there. I answer questions in there. So do other students. There's a fair number of alumni in there. There's also some other doctoral faculty that are in there. I see them snooping because I had to prove them to get in there. They don't usually write anything, but some of them do from time to time. So, there's places for you to communicate with me as well. If you've got my email, you can also email me directly, but you can also message me on Facebook. Those are the quickest ways to get to me. Excuse me. So with that, I want to bid you farewell. Daniel, you have any questions? You're here live. and you're typing in there. If you have any questions, please ask. If not, I'll just wait a minute or so. But otherwise, just have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend coming up. Get ready for Santa Claus if you celebrate Christmas at all. And you know what? If you get some extra time during your holiday break or your end of the year break, maybe you just get some extra time off at work, or you get a day off for a holiday. If you're in the U.S. or any other country that celebrates and has holidays this time of the year, you know what? That's a great time to do a little extra work in your proposal or your dissertation. Believe me, a little extra work now means less work you got to do later. I always tell people you can struggle a little bit now, learn the materials well, read the APA manual, and do better later, or you can just be lazy today because that pays off and you can struggle more later. So the choice is yours. I learned a long time ago. If it's something I want to do, if I'm passionate about it, I might as well just dig in now, do it, have fun, get it out of the way, and then enjoy or reap the benefits later. So that's a great thing. Daniel says, I am all set tonight. Thank you for talking about chapter 1. You're welcome. With that, I'm going to bid you good night from Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's going to be cold tonight in the 30s. It's like, good thing I'm going back to the 80 and 90 temperatures tomorrow. Take care, and I'll see you on the next webinar, which is 2 weeks from now, because next week I will not be here on Wednesday. I will be in Bangkok still. So I hope you have a great week. Talk to you again soon. Thanks for taking your time to listen in on the webinar. I hope it's helpful for you so that you can get done with your proposal and dissertation sooner.